Okay, to begin this acrylic set, I am going to start by pushing back my client's cuticles and scraping away some dead skin that's on the nail plate. Now I'm going to use my cuticle nippers and clip away the dead skin only on her cuticles. This helps with retention as well as to minimize lifting of acrylic. After all the cuticle prep, I'm going to use my fine grit sanding band and prep her natural nail. Now I'm going to be applying nail tips. I'm going to find the correct size for each of her fingers and make sure that they fit sidewall to sidewall, as that's really important. She is going for an almond look today, so after I apply these tips, I'm going to cut and shape into almond, which I did forget to record. I honestly feel like this is the most important step because you're setting your foundation for your acrylic, so it's important that you file and shape accordingly. You can see the nail tips are already filed and shaped, and I'm using 100% acetone as a dehydrator. And then now I am applying an acrylic primer from Mia Secret. I love this one. Now I'm going to be showing you the acrylic portion of this nail set. So I always start with a runnier bead and place it where the natural nail and the nail tip meet. I'm patting, pulling, bringing the acrylic down to the free edge of the nail. I always use gravity as my friend. It's important to hold the nail down versus holding the nail like straight out. Gravity is your friend here. It helps you not flood the cuticle. So here I go with my second bead, building up the apex, wiping the sidewalls, and then my third, which is my cuticle bead, which I use kind of a drier bead, and make sure I'm really placing that away from the cuticle, but close enough. So now for the ring finger, I've slowed down these clips so that way you guys can get a good look at what is going on here. So I'm placing my bead a little above where the nail tip and the natural nail meet. I'm patting. When using acrylic, it's really important that when you're patting, that means you want the acrylic to stay in place, and when you're pulling, like I am doing right here, you want the acrylic to move. So if you're trying to thin something out or move something downward, you're going to be pulling, not patting. Now I'm patting because I like the placement. I also wipe the sidewalls pretty often to keep the shape of the nail so that way you're not having to file a lot at the end. I often use this method of turning my brush around and pulling the opposite direction that I normally would. This helps kind of smooth out the end of the nail, like the free edge of the nail. Sometimes with almond or round nails, it's kind of hard to not get a buildup of acrylic at the end of the free edge. Whereas like a square and coffin nail, you would just like cut it off with like the end of your brush or your finger or something. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing here, just making sure that it's even. And then after that, I'm going to grab another bead and start building my apex. So yeah, here I go grabbing my second bead. I grab kind of like a medium size bead. I'm going to place it on the apex. This is where I want like the thickest part of the nail to be. I'm going to pat, 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 and then start pulling to smooth it out. As always, it's really important to turn your client's nail or finger like side to side, like look at it from different angles to make sure that your acrylic's not chunky in one spot. That's kind of what I was doing right there. So now I'm grabbing my last bead, which is going to be my cuticle bead, placing it close to the cuticle, pushing back, making sure that my cuticle is sealed, and pulling down. Sometimes you will flood the cuticle on accident, like I did right here. So I'm just going to take my brush and go around the cuticle and kind of get the excess acrylic away from the skin. So that way there is no lifting. Here you can see that I'm turning her finger side to side and making sure that everything looks good, everything's even before I move on to the next nail. And I kind of went off the screen right here, but you get the point. Here's another clip of me applying acrylic to her middle finger, and I keep going off the screen right here, which is quite annoying. Sorry about that. Yeah, so basically applying a bead, patting, pulling. I am removing some acrylic that was too thick at the free edge, just by patting, pulling, and then wiping it off with my brush like that and putting it on my paper towel. So yeah, I used 3 beads on pretty much all of her fingers. Honestly, it varies per client. Some clients I can get away with doing just 1, some I do 3, just depends. All right, so now we're going to start filing her nails. I promise that my file has not been used on another client. I actually started filing her nails and then was like, oh crap, I forgot to record. Yeah, so I'm just going to file the sides, and then I'm going to use my drill and use a coarse carbide bit to kind of debulk the nails and seal the cuticle at the same time. I honestly only use 1 bit. To do everything. So yeah, it works for me. I don't know, everybody's different. Some people use like a cuticle bit, but yeah, I only use 1. So basically I go around the cuticle, debulk the nail, make sure that everything's smooth, make sure that there's no lumps, bumps. This step is honestly really important because once you're done with this and you buff the nails, you're going to paint, and if you don't file them good, you're gonna tell when you paint. Now I'm going to use my file again and just go around the free edge and perfect it, make sure that it looks good. My client likes the shape and everything. Then I'm going to use a buffer block and just kind of smooth out the nail, make sure that there's no ridges for my file. Lastly, I'm going to apply some alcohol, and that's what they look like after the alcohol. And that's what they look like after the paint. She chose a hot pink French tip, and these were her homecoming nails. So I hope she has so much fun, and thanks for letting me record.